A struggling young woman brought a homeless man into her home, unaware he was the vanished CEO of a major tech company. What followed left everyone speechless. Before we begin, leave a comment with where you're tuning in from. Enjoy the story. Amanda rushed through the streets of Ridgeway, her pulse racing. In one hand, she clutched a wrinkled resume. In the other, a bag of takeout. Her honey-brown hair was loosely twisted into a messy bun, and every step she took echoed the urgency of her morning. Today's job interview could change everything. To shave off a few minutes, Amanda darted into a narrow alley. The pavement was slick from last night's rain, and before she could react, her foot slipped on a sheet of soggy newspaper. She fell hard. Her food scattered, rice and chicken bursting from the bag midair before hitting the ground. "Fantastic," she muttered, sitting on the damp concrete, glaring at the ruins of her lunch as though it were something more precious than just food. "Are you okay?" The voice startled her. It came from behind a row of stacked crates. Emerging slowly was a man, scruffy hair, unkempt beard, tattered clothes. Homeless. Yet there was something about him that didn't quite fit the image. His sea-gray eyes were steady and strangely clear, the kind of eyes that saw more than they let on. "I think I'll live," Amanda replied, brushing off her sleeves. The man stepped closer, picking up the crumpled container and handing it back with a small nod. "There's still some left," he said gently. She accepted it hesitantly. "Do you live here?" He gave a casual shrug. "For now. But it's temporary. I'm somewhere between the person I used to be and whoever I'll become next." Amanda tilted her head, puzzled. What kind of man on the street talked like that? That's when she noticed a deep gash on his ankle, red, raw, and still bleeding. "You're injured." "It's nothing. I've handled worse." Without thinking, Amanda unzipped her backpack and pulled out tissues, a travel bottle of disinfectant, and some tape. "This is going to sting," she warned. "I've had worse," he repeated, trying to be stoic. The moment the alcohol touched his skin, though, his jaw tightened in pain. She worked quickly, wrapping the wound and securing it with tape. As she stood up, her stomach growled loudly. "Perfect. I'm starving, my lunch is ruined, I'm late for my interview, and I'm helping someone who has even less than me. I've got a bag of bread if you want some." She blinked at him. He pulled out a half-full bag. She sighed, managing a smile. "Only if there's butter." He chuckled, and to her surprise, so did she. Minutes later, they sat side by side on the curb, sharing stale bread as if it were a banquet. Amanda glanced at her watch and let out a sigh. The interview she'd been stressing over was already lost to the clock. No point in rushing now. That's it then, no job, no lunch, and I'm eating carbs with a stranger who has suspiciously beautiful eyes. "You think my eyes are beautiful?" Amanda turned pink and looked away. "What's your name?" "Joey," he replied. "And yours?" "Amanda." He looked at her as though trying to memorize every detail. "So, do you really live on the street?" "Technically, yes. But I call the sky my roof." "That sounds hard." Joey didn't answer. He just stared forward in silence. Amanda stood up, dusted herself off, and grabbed her now limp resume. "Take care, Joey." "You too, Amanda." She walked away, but something about him stayed with her. In the days that followed, Amanda found herself walking through that same alley more than once. Each time she passed, Joey was there. Sometimes they exchanged quick greetings, other times just a nod. Once he complimented her for standing up to a rude customer while delivering a package. His presence became a quiet, comforting rhythm in her otherwise chaotic life. Then one bitterly cold afternoon, Amanda spotted him again. Only this time he looked different. His face was pale, his body trembling. The bandage she'd applied was still wrapped around his ankle, but was now filthy and barely clinging on. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days. "You're still wearing that old thing?" she asked softly. "It's hanging in there," he answered, forcing a grin. She knelt beside him and checked the wound. It was worse, red and inflamed. He could barely keep from shivering. Amanda hesitated. She had a tiny spare room back at her apartment. Nothing fancy. A creaky bed, a single blanket, and a heater that worked only if you tapped it twice. But it was something. "I have a place," she whispered. Joey looked up, surprised and unsure. "It's just for tonight. No expectations." "Just tonight," he repeated. She nodded. He hesitated, then accepted. She offered her hand. He took it. On the walk back, Amanda kept stealing glances at Joey. Even with a slight limp, he carried himself with quiet dignity as if the cold or judgment didn't bother him. He walked upright, eyes steady, not hunched or ashamed. That intrigued her even more. When they arrived at her modest apartment building, she unlocked the door and motioned him inside. "Welcome to my castle." "Ignore the clutter and the faint scent of antiseptic," she said with a nervous laugh. Joey stepped in cautiously, pausing in front of a framed photo hanging near the entrance. It showed Amanda with an older woman, both smiling warmly. "Your mom?" he asked. "My grandmother," Amanda replied. "She's in the hospital this week. I take care of her when she's home." Joey touched the photo gently, murmuring something she couldn't quite catch. "What did you say?" "Nothing. She just reminds me of someone I used to know." Amanda didn't press further. Instead, she led him to the small back room. "This is where you'll sleep. Bathroom's down the hall. There are towels in the cabinet, and try not to burn yourself on the heater. It's unpredictable." He looked around respectfully, not touching anything. "Don't get too comfortable," she added quickly. "It's only for tonight." "Of course," he replied. "Just tonight." That night, neither of them slept much, Joey because the past was catching up to him, and Amanda because for the first time in a long while she felt something unfamiliar and unsettling: hope. The next morning began with the shriek of Amanda's alarm clock. She groaned and sat up, unsure if the previous night had been a dream. But then she heard water running in the bathroom. Joey was still there. She tied her hair back into a messy bun and walked to the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. To her surprise, the counter held a clean plate and a pot on the stove. Joey sat at the table with a cup of coffee, looking unusually relaxed. "You cooked?" she asked, blinking. "I tried. It's more of an experiment than an actual meal. I promise nothing exploded." Amanda grabbed a spoon, tasted the contents of the pot, and made a face. "This tastes like oatmeal pretending to be rice. It's missing salt." "I'm working on it," he replied with a lopsided grin. They both laughed. And for the first time since he entered her apartment, Joey seemed to exhale, not just from his lungs, but from somewhere deeper. Still, Amanda couldn't help noticing little things: the way he held the coffee cup, the way his eyes scanned the room like someone trained to observe. He didn't move like someone who lived on the streets. "You look more rested today," she noted. "Sleeping with a roof over your head will do that." Amanda nodded and sipped her coffee. "I have to leave soon. A couple deliveries, maybe another interview. Mind if I stay another day?" She paused. Their arrangement was meant to be one night only. But he didn't seem like a threat. "Okay," she said. "But no snooping through my stuff. And no more rice experiments. I promise. No porridge surprises." As Amanda hurried out the door, Joey made himself comfortable on the worn couch. He picked up a book from the shelf titled Finance for Beginners and flipped through it with surprising ease, turning pages as if he'd already read them a dozen times. Later that morning, he washed the dishes, organized the towels, and even cleaned the bathroom mirror. Every action was precise, deliberate, like second nature. It was unsettling in the most curious way. When Amanda returned that evening, she was exhausted and frustrated. "You cleaned?" she asked, surprised. "Seemed fair. I'm using your space. Are you trying to charm me with a mop and dish soap? Is it working?" Amanda dropped onto the couch with a groan. "My day was chaos. Deliveries went okay. The interview? Total disaster. You'll get another one. You just need someone to really see you." His words were too spot on, too sincere. She studied him closely. "You talk like someone who's had every chance already." Joey's eyes drifted toward the window. "Maybe I had a few. Maybe I wasted some." The next day, while Amanda was out, Joey reorganized her books and even fixed the faulty light fixture on the balcony using an old spoon and a rusted pair of pliers. When she came home, she immediately noticed the working light. "You touched the lamp?" It was flickering. "Bothered me. You're good with tools." "I was a curious kid. Loved taking things apart. Didn't always know how to put them back together." Amanda folded her arms, raising an eyebrow. "You're not at all what I pictured." Joey leaned back slightly. "And what exactly did you picture?" "A lost soul with no clue how to write his own name." "You've clearly read too many books and lived too little." Amanda let out a surprised laugh. "Cocky too. Great." They both chuckled. Whatever this was between them, awkward, accidental, and undefined, it was becoming oddly comfortable. But comfort didn't last long. The next afternoon, a sharp knock startled them both. Amanda opened the door to find her building manager, Mr. Keating, serious and stiff in a brown blazer. "Good afternoon, Miss Amanda. May I come in for a moment?" "Of course," she said, stepping aside, already nervous. "Is something wrong?" "We've received concerns from a few tenants," he said. A man hanging around, disheveled, unfamiliar. "It's made some residents uneasy." Joey appeared in the hallway holding a dish towel, clearly overhearing. "Is this him?" Keating asked, eyeing Joey. Before Amanda could respond, Joey stepped forward. "I'm her cousin," he said smoothly, offering his hand. "Joey, just visiting from upstate." "Cousin?" Keating looked skeptical but shook his hand. "I'll only be here a few more days," Joey added. "Well, make sure you're registered as a guest if you plan on staying longer." Building policy. Keating turned to Amanda. "Just a formality." "Of course," she replied politely, forcing a smile. After the door closed, Amanda turned to Joey. "Cousin, it worked, didn't it?" he said with a smirk. She sighed, shaking her head. "You're too good at improvising." "Old habit." "From what?" "Survival." That night, Amanda lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Joey was in the guest room, quiet as always, maybe too quiet. Her mind wouldn't stop turning over everything he'd said, everything he hadn't. Something about him didn't add up. And yet, he'd left a note in one of her books, folded between pages 47 and 48. "You are more than what they see. You just need someone to notice." Her pen, her handwriting, but not her words. She smiled softly and closed the book. The next morning, Amanda was up early, surprised by the smell of freshly brewed coffee. She walked into the kitchen and found Joey expertly operating the old coffee machine that hadn't worked for months. "You fixed that." "Loose wires. Nothing major. And you know electrical wiring too?" "Jack of all trades." Amanda narrowed her eyes playfully. "One of these days, you'll build a robot in here. Only if it can cook better than me." They both laughed, but the curiosity gnawed at her. Every day, Joey revealed something new, a skill, an observation, a strangely professional attitude. He definitely didn't move through life like someone who had nothing. Later that day, while Amanda was getting ready for another interview, she walked into the living room and froze. Her laptop was open. Joey was typing, but quickly stood when he saw her. "I was just checking something. The system was lagging. Thought I could help." "You opened my computer?" "It was instinct. I saw it on and thought maybe I could fix it. I didn't touch anything important." Amanda walked over and looked at the screen. A job site was open. A new version of her resume was uploaded, edited, restructured, and refined. "You changed my resume?" "I just cleaned it up. Your info is the same. I adjusted the formatting, added some clarity. Trust me, it reads way better now." "You had no right to do that." Joey's expression shifted. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to help." "Without asking me?" "It was impulsive. I've seen your potential, Amanda. That resume didn't show even half of it." She crossed her arms, annoyed but conflicted. "Next time, ask first." "Got it. Got it. I promise." That afternoon, Amanda received an unexpected email from a tech firm called Avergent Tech, one of the companies she'd applied to weeks ago. "Dear Amanda, we reviewed your resume and would love to invite you for an interview tomorrow with our senior board." She stared at the screen, heart pounding. The resume they mentioned, it was the one Joey had updated. She glanced at the guest room door, hesitated, then knocked. "You updated my resume?" Joey looked up from where he was reading. "I did. Without telling me? I figured you'd say no. What makes you think you had the right?" Joey exhaled. "Because I believe in you even when you don't." Amanda didn't know whether to yell or thank him. "Just don't make decisions for me, Joey. I don't like surprises." "Understood." The next morning, Amanda was getting dressed when she noticed Joey standing quietly on the small balcony watching the sunrise. "Aren't you going to wish me luck?" "You don't need it," he said with a soft smile, "but you'll have it anyway." She raised an eyebrow. "If I get this job, you'll have to find somewhere else to crash." "Fair enough. And if I don't?" "You will." She gave her hair one final adjustment and left, still unsure how someone like Joey, mysterious, skilled, and emotionally unreadable, had ended up in her alley just days ago. Once Amanda left, Joey stayed at the window for a long time. Then, moving deliberately, he grabbed a worn backpack from the closet and pulled out something hidden in its lining, a folded, faded newspaper. On the front page, a photo of himself, polished and clean-shaven, in a charcoal suit with his arms crossed before a logo that read, "Cleremont Systems CEO missing since industrial helicopter crash." "Where's Joey Carver?" He stared at the headline. His name. His face. Then without blinking, he tore the paper into pieces and dropped it in the trash. Amanda was returning from her interview when her phone rang. "Hello, Miss Amanda? This is Talia from Avergent. The team was really impressed. Could you return tomorrow to meet with the board?" Her breath caught. Yes. Absolutely. She ended the call and smiled as she walked past the familiar alley. That alley, the one where she first met him. But her steps slowed near a newsstand. A front-page story, months old, caught her eye. She stepped closer. The man in the photo, neatly dressed, confident, looked familiar. The caption read, Joey Carver, founder of Cleremont Systems, has not been seen since the mysterious crash that removed him from the company. Amanda stood frozen. Same sharp jawline. Same eyes. Same name. It was him. Or it had to be. Back at home, everything looked normal. Joey was sitting on the couch, a book open in his lap. Hey, he said, glancing up. Hey, she replied, heading straight to her room. She sat on the bed, the newspaper tucked into her bag, heart racing. She knew. And yet, she had no idea what to do next. That night, dinner was quiet. Joey talked about the weather, a strange humming from the fridge. Amanda nodded along, barely listening. As he settled into the guest room, Amanda whispered into the dark. Who are you really, Joey? The alarm blared at 6:30 the next morning. Amanda stirred, eyes heavy with questions from the night before. She got dressed slowly, mind still circling the image from that newspaper, the headline, the face, the name. Joey was already up, standing in the kitchen with a warm cup of coffee in hand. Morning, he said, calm as ever. There's coffee. And I picked up cheese bread from the bakery around the corner. Amanda took the cup and studied him. The way he moved around the kitchen, quietly efficient, as if the space were his, as if he'd done it 1,000 times before. You heading out today? She asked casually. Thought I'd walk around the neighborhood a bit, stretch my legs. Ha! She finished her drink and grabbed her bag. See you later. Good luck today, he said. She left, but the doubts left with her. As soon as the door clicked shut, Joey walked to the window, waited a few moments, then changed into a plain dark shirt and a baseball cap. From beneath the bed in the guest room, he pulled out the same backpack, slung it over his shoulder, and slipped out the back exit. Cleremont Systems HQ was just over an hour away. He avoided the subway and took side streets, stopping briefly at a small cafe across from the building. Watching. He needed to see who was inside before making his move. The company he'd built from the ground up was no longer his. The new nameplate on the glass office door read, Victor Levon, a chief executive officer. Joey entered the building through the side service door using an old ID badge. It wouldn't work electronically, but his face still opened some doors. A former facilities manager recognized him. Mr. Carver? Joey held up a finger. Just for today. Can you help me get upstairs? The man nodded and waved him through. Joey slipped into a meeting room next to what used to be his office. Connecting an old laptop to the internal system, he typed in a password he hadn't used in nearly a year. It worked. Files and folders popped up instantly. Contracts. Transactions. Memos. Hidden asset transfers. And there was a plan to sell off Cleremont's most valuable division to a shell company overseas. Victor wasn't just managing the company. He was gutting it, piece by piece. Joey scrolled through everything, saving what he could to a flash drive. He knew better than to take anything physical. Not yet. He needed more. Meanwhile, Amanda was finishing her follow-up interview at Emergent Tech. Your resume was impressive, the hiring manager said. And the way you carried yourself, professional and grounded. We'll be in touch soon. Amanda left the building feeling a mix of relief and unease. She'd done well, she could feel it. But a knot of uncertainty stayed lodged in her chest. Instead of going straight home, she took a detour to the newsstand where she'd seen the paper. Do you have anything else on Joey Carver? She asked. The vendor pulled out a few older editions. She flipped through them. Billionaire disappears in suspected helicopter crash. New CEO takes over amid rumors of internal takeover. Public still searching for answers in Carver's disappearance. Every word confirmed what she already knew. She went home in silence. Joey was already there, reading on the couch, his hair still damp from a shower. How'd it go? He asked. Good. I think it went well. And you? Did you enjoy your walk? Felt good to get out, he replied. Amanda nodded and retreated to her room. She sat on the bed and spread the newspapers out in front of her. Same man, same name, same eyes. There was no doubt anymore. That night, as they ate together, she barely spoke. Joey tried to fill the silence with idle chatter, but Amanda's thoughts were elsewhere. Something wrong? He asked. No, just tired. You seem distant. Just thinking. After a long pause, Joey stood. If I'm in the way, I can leave. It's not that. She looked at him directly. Who are you, Joey? He didn't answer. I saw the newspaper, she continued. It's you, isn't it? The missing CEO? Joey stared at the floor for a moment, then looked out the window. Yes. Amanda's voice trembled slightly. Why? Why lie? Why pretend? Joey didn't turn around at first. Because I lost everything, Amanda. And when I thought I had nothing left, I found you. She stood frozen. So you really are Joey Carver, the founder of Cleremont Systems? I was. But after the crash, I didn't want to come back. Not like that. They told me the company would be fine. That Victor would handle things. I believed them. I wanted peace. But when I realized what he was doing, it was already too late. Then why not go to the police? Or the press? Joey finally turned toward her. Because they'd tear me apart, not just my name, but everything I worked for. And I wasn't ready to face that. Not then. Amanda said nothing for a while. Her anger had dulled, replaced by disbelief and a deep, aching confusion. So, what now? I don't know. But for the first time in months, I want to fight again. Maybe because of you. Amanda's eyes filled with emotion, but she didn't let herself cry. I need some space. She got up and walked to her room, closing the door softly behind her. Joey stood in the living room, staring at the photo of her grandmother again. He felt everything and nothing at once. The following week, Amanda threw herself into work. While waiting for a final decision from Emergent, she picked up temporary gigs, catering, deliveries, data entry. Anything to stay busy. Then one day, a message popped up on her phone from an old contact. Corporate party tonight. Fancy hotel. Decent pay. You in? Amanda replied without thinking. Yes. That evening, she arrived at the Astoria Grand, one of Ridgeway's most luxurious hotels. The marble lobby glittered beneath chandeliers and a grand hall buzzed with guests in designer suits and cocktail dresses. Screens played animated graphs and soft music drifted from a live quartet. Amanda was handed a uniform and a tray of champagne glasses. Don't speak to guests unless necessary and keep smiling, the event coordinator instructed. She entered the grand hall, balancing the tray with practiced grace until her eyes landed on a familiar face. Joey, clean-shaven, in a perfectly fitted suit. Standing tall among executives, shaking hands and laughing like he belonged there because he did. Amanda ducked out of view, retreating to a hallway. Her mind raced. What was he doing here? Why was he pretending to be someone else again? She made her way to the staff room and pulled out her phone. But before she could text anyone, she was called back onto the floor. She left her phone on the counter. Minutes later, when she returned, it was gone. Amanda searched everywhere. She questioned the other servers, even checked under tables. Nothing. Her phone had vanished. She exited the staff area and moved through the event, eyes scanning the room. She paused near the hallway and saw Joey, or rather, the version of him from before, slipping through a side door. She caught a glimpse of something in his jacket pocket, a flash of silver. Her phone? She wanted to follow him, but by the time she reached the door, he was gone. Later that night, she returned home, exhausted and frustrated. Joey hadn't come back yet. When he finally did, it was past midnight. The door creaked softly as he entered. He didn't see her at first. She was waiting in the dark. Where were you? Amanda asked flatly. Joey froze, then replied, I went for a walk. At a 5-star hotel? In a tailored suit? Using a fake name? He winced but stayed composed. I needed to be there. And the phone? Was that part of the plan? He slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out her device. I found it near the buffet. I was going to hand it in, but I didn't. Amanda took the phone and examined it. Battery full. Screen clean. Nothing touched. You were pretending again, she said, voice tight. I had to be someone else to hear what Victor's planning. And what's he planning this time? Joey's face darkened. He's trying to sell Cleremont through a sham merger. A fake company. If the deal goes through, the entire system collapses quietly. Amanda stepped back. Why didn't you tell me all this? Because I didn't want to drag you any deeper. She looked at him, furious and heartbroken all at once. You already did. Amanda stood in the middle of the living room, emotions tightening in her chest. You've been lying to me this entire time. Joey's voice was low, careful. I never lied about what I felt. But yes, I hid things. Because I didn't want to lose you. You already lost me the moment you walked into that ballroom like none of this mattered. It does matter. That's why I'm doing this. You could have trusted me. I do trust you. But I wasn't sure if you'd still trust me. They stood in silence, both breathing hard. Finally, Amanda whispered, I need to think. She turned and walked toward her room. Joey stayed where he was, holding her phone like it still meant something. The next morning, Amanda didn't say a word. She made coffee like usual, left some for him, and disappeared before he woke up. When he finally emerged, she was gone. He sat down, looked around the quiet apartment, and then stood with resolve. I'll be gone for a few days, he said aloud to the empty room as if she were still listening. She wasn't. Amanda got the message later that afternoon. A simple note on the fridge. Finishing what I started. Jay. Across town, Joey met with an old contact, someone who owed him a favor and didn't ask questions. I need access to internal backups at Cleremont, legal files, financial transfers, board communications. You're not just coming back, are you? I'm not here to take back a title. I'm here to stop what's coming. Back in her apartment, Amanda sat on the couch with her laptop, staring at job listings that no longer felt important. The anger was still there, but beneath it was something else, a desire for answers. She wanted to understand the whole truth, not just the parts Joey offered when he was ready. 2 days later, Amanda came home to find an envelope on her doorstep, no name, no return address. Inside was her phone, now with a new folder in the photo gallery titled Cleremont Truth. She opened it. Spreadsheets, recordings, screenshots of emails, internal communications, even voice memos of Victor discussing plans to funnel company assets to shell corporations under fake names. Alongside the files, a simple note. I couldn't stay, but I never really left. Jay. Amanda pressed the phone to her chest and sat in silence. She finally knew. It was real. Later that night, the cafe where she sometimes worked part-time felt different. She took a walk after her shift, through streets she barely remembered how to enjoy. As she passed a closed bookstore, her reflection in the window stared back with something unfamiliar certainty. The next morning, she sent a message to the last number Joey had used. We need to talk. Today. Wherever you are. He saw it while logged into a temporary terminal, buried in code and metadata from Victor's transactions. When he read her message, he didn't hesitate. He packed his things and left without a word to anyone. Amanda was waiting at the front entrance of her building when Joey arrived. She didn't look angry, just firm, like someone who had made up her mind. Come in, she said quietly. They walked in together. It wasn't the first time, but it felt completely different now. Inside, she gestured toward the couch. Sit. Joey obeyed. I read everything, she began. The files, the recordings. Victor's behind it all. But you're trying to fix this on your own. And that won't work anymore. It's too dangerous, Joey replied. I didn't want to drag you back into it. Too late for that. He lowered his gaze. Then what do you suggest? Amanda pulled a folder from her tote bag. A Virgin Tech offered me a short-term IT position. One of their subsidiaries is on the list in your files. A shell company connected to Victor. Joey leaned forward, suddenly focused. You think you can access something from inside? I know I can. If I get into their system, I might find evidence with Victor's name on it, direct connections, authorizations, emails. Something hard to bury. That could put you at risk. I've been at risk since I let you sleep in my spare room. He moved closer, his voice tight. I never wanted you involved. And I never asked for permission. She placed her hand over his. You're not alone anymore. So stop acting like it. Over the next few days, Amanda began working at a Virgin. The office was sleek and secure, but she knew how to move beneath the radar. She kept her head down, played the polite employee, all while carefully navigating their system. Every lunch break, she scanned for data trails, email chains, access logs, meetings. Meanwhile, Joey set up a secure network with the help of his trusted friend Marcos, a former cybersecurity chief from Cleremont. They used old server loopholes and ghost protocols Joey had built back when the company was young. Information started pouring in faster now, the puzzle coming together. There's a scheduled meeting between Victor and the offshore buyers, Marcos said one night, eyes on an encrypted screen. Next week, at the Astoria Grand Private Lounge. It's listed under the name Strategic Merger. Joey clenched his jaw. If that deal is signed, we lose everything. Amanda was listening over speakerphone from her apartment. Then we stop it. The question is how. Amanda got her hands on a breakthrough file 3 nights later. Buried in a Virgint's backup server was a hidden folder containing audio recordings of conversations between Victor and fake board members. Voices, dates, numbers, proof. She downloaded everything onto a flash drive and hid it deep inside her backpack. As she walked out of the building, her hands trembled. That evening, she met Joey in the alley behind a closed laundromat. "I have it," she said, handing him the drive. Joey took it like it was made of gold. "You took a huge risk. Was it worth it?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he plugged the drive into his laptop and the screen filled with file names. Victor's voice echoed through the speakers. "Joey won't return. And if he does, no one will care. The story's already written." Another voice followed. "After the merger, we make the switch. No one will ever trace it back to us." Joey looked up at Amanda. "With this, we have everything." She exhaled slowly. "So, what now?" He closed the laptop. "Now, we stop hiding." The day of the meeting arrived. Joey put on the suit he hadn't worn since the accident. Fresh shave, hair neatly styled, and a newly reactivated Cleremont ID thanks to a security loophole only he knew about. Amanda, already on the event team roster, wore a clean white blouse and dark slacks. A tiny hidden camera was clipped into her shirt button, a last-minute addition from Marcos. The plan was simple. Joey would enter as a potential investor. Amanda would blend in with the logistics team. Once Victor started speaking, Amanda would trigger the audio files. The flash drive was already loaded and ready. Outside the Astoria Grand, they stood just a moment in the morning light. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Let's finish this," she answered. Inside, the private lounge was immaculate, crystal glasses, gold-trimmed folders, and polished chairs surrounding a massive table. Executives and lawyers murmured quietly as they reviewed papers. Victor hadn't arrived yet. Amanda walked among the guests with calm, handing out materials and plugging in presentation cords like any other staff member. Then Victor entered, confident, polished, charming. "Gentlemen," he said, "today marks a powerful new chapter for Cleremont. Let me introduce our newest silent partner, Mr. Daniel Andrade." Joey stepped through a side door. The room froze. A few people whispered. One director's jaw dropped. Victor's smile evaporated. "This is trespassing," Victor snapped. "Security." Joey held up his reactivated ID badge. "Still valid as of this morning. Funny what the founder can access when he's not officially declared dead." Victor tried to laugh, but the mood shifted. "I'm reclaiming what's mine," Joey said. "And what you've been quietly dismantling. You have no proof." Amanda stepped forward, cool and steady. "Actually, we do." She inserted the flash drive into the lounge's main console. Audio played through the room's sound system. "Joey won't return. The merger happens this week. Use his credentials before they're deactivated." The room exploded in murmurs. Some directors stood in shock. A lawyer from the board's legal team reached for her phone. Victor tried to stay calm. "This is all fake. Fabricated by a disgruntled." These recordings were taken directly from a Virgin text secured network. Amanda interrupted. "Time-stamped. Verified. You were sloppy, Victor." Joey stepped forward. "And the court agrees." He pulled out a sealed envelope. "A judge signed this warrant this morning. Your assets and all transactions tied to the fake merger frozen." Right then, two plainclothes officers stepped in. "Victor Levon, you're under investigation for corporate fraud and misrepresentation." Victor looked stunned. "You think you've won?" Joey didn't flinch. "This isn't about winning. It's about telling the truth." That night, back at Amanda's apartment, the city lights glowed through the windows. Joey and Amanda sat on the couch, sharing a quiet cup of tea. "You did it," she said. He shook his head. "We did it." She looked down at her hands. "I don't know what happens now. Your name's back in the news. You're the guy everyone's watching again. I didn't want the spotlight. I just wanted to make things right." "You did." She paused. "But are you going back?" Joey sighed. "They want me to. The board's already asking for statements, interviews, a return plan. And what do you want?" He looked at her. "To stay right here." They didn't say anything for a moment. "Do you think we could actually have something normal?" Amanda asked softly. Joey chuckled. "Normal might be too ambitious. But peaceful? Maybe." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You don't have to save the world anymore," she whispered. "Just yourself." A few days passed. The media was ablaze with headlines. Missing CEO returns to expose fraud. Cleremont saved by founder in surprise comeback. Victor Levon arrested in corporate conspiracy. Joey's name was everywhere. But in the cafe near Amanda's place, he sat quietly, reading a paperback, trying to ignore it all. Amanda, meanwhile, avoided the headlines altogether. She picked up extra shifts, kept her head down at a Virgin, and smiled at customers even when she didn't feel it. Then one evening, as they were closing the cafe register together, she broke the silence. "Did you know Victor was still trying to bring you down?" Joey didn't even blink. "I figured he'd try something. He's accusing you of fraud again. This time claiming you manipulated your return, your identity, even me." Joey dropped a stack of coins. "They're calling you as a witness?" Amanda nodded. "I got a call from the court this morning. Preliminary hearing next week. I never wanted you to be dragged into this." "You didn't drag me. I walked into it with my eyes open. But now I need to know, are you going to fight this or run away again?" Joey looked at her, not angry, just tired. "I'm going to fight. Then start by telling the whole truth." That night, Amanda sat at the dinner table with a bowl of soup growing cold in front of her. Joey sat across from her, silent. "Do you still think you did the right thing?" she asked, not looking up. "I did what had to be done. Even knowing the fallout would pull everyone back in with you?" He hesitated. "I didn't plan for it to happen like this." "I don't know who you are anymore, Joey." "Not really." He swallowed hard. "I'm still the same man you met in that alley." "No. That man gave me bread when he had nothing." "You? You calculate every move like the world's a chessboard." "Because now it is. And I'm trying to protect you." "And where do I fit into that game?" He had no answer. Because even he didn't know anymore. The morning of the hearing came quickly. Amanda wore a blazer she hadn't used in years. Joey stood outside the courthouse in a crisp suit, jaw tight. Inside, the session was brief but intense. Amanda sat on the witness bench as Victor's new defense lawyer circled her like a vulture. "Did Mr. Carver ever mislead you?" "No." "Did he use a false identity to gain your trust?" "Yes. But not to deceive me, to protect himself." "Did you assist him in accessing private corporate files?" Amanda looked directly at Joey. "Yes. I helped him. And I'd do it again." Later, outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed. "Are you two still together? Did you know about the merger? Do you believe in Joey Carver?" Amanda answered only one question. "He has two names. But only one heart. And that's what matters." A few feet away, Joey heard her words. He didn't smile, but something shifted in his eyes, like hope had finally found a way back in. The final trial began under a heavy gray sky. No rain, just clouds thick with tension. Joey walked into the courtroom like a man carrying a mountain on his back. He wore the same suit he'd once worn to close multimillion-dollar deals, but now it felt more like armor. Amanda wasn't in the audience. They hadn't spoken since the preliminary hearing. Her last words to him were, "If you need me, you know where to find me." Still, she wasn't there. The court session was long and grueling. Legal definitions, financial terms, ethical lines blurred and redrawn. When it was Joey's turn to speak, he stood tall and said, "I did use another name. I did hide. But every step I took was to expose what others were doing in my absence. And to protect what I built." The prosecution pressed hard, but the files Amanda had recovered, the recordings, the transfer logs, they spoke louder than anyone in the room. After a recess, the judge returned with the decision. Mr. Carver's actions, while irregular, were not malicious. The court finds him not guilty of fraud or identity manipulation. But then came the final blow. However, for the sake of institutional integrity, Mr. Carver will be barred from holding an executive position at Cleremont for an indefinite period. Joey closed his eyes and nodded. It wasn't defeat, it was release. Days passed. Joey didn't return to the company. He didn't even open his laptop. The cafe near Amanda stayed closed. The lights off. The windows dusty. Until one morning, when he returned to find the plants had been watered, the register balanced, and a letter waiting on the counter in Amanda's handwriting. "Joey, congratulations. You did what most people would have given up on. But I needed time. Watching you in court was like watching a storm. You were fighting to breathe, and I was too close to it. I love you. But I love myself too. For the first time in years, I'm learning to live without running. This isn't goodbye. It's just a pause. Amanda." Joey sat at the counter reading it again and again. He didn't cry, but the silence around him did. Weeks went by. Joey moved out of the city. He invested in small businesses, bookstores, cafes, after-school programs. He stayed out of the spotlight. Amanda did too. She opened a small independent bookstore in a quiet part of town called The Turning Page. It became a haven for quiet readers, second chances, and fresh beginnings. Then, on a spring morning, she received a letter in a plain envelope. I found a town where the coffee never gets cold and the trees bloom year-round. There's an empty chair next to mine. If you ever want to come back, I'll be here. Jay. Amanda smiled. She didn't rush, but she packed a bag. When she arrived at Dintino Café, the bell above the door chimed softly. Joey looked up from behind the counter. Their eyes met. You came, he said, breathless. Took me long enough, she teased. He shook his head. No. Right on time. Amanda looked around Dintino Café, the wooden shelves lined with books, fresh flowers on the counter, soft jazz playing in the background. You really did it, she said. A cafe in the middle of nowhere. Joey smiled as he handed her a mug. Sometimes nowhere is exactly where we need to be. They sat outside on the small garden patio. No more boardrooms. No more secrets. Just two people sipping coffee under a blooming tree. Is it weird that everything feels normal? Amanda asked. It's not weird, Joey replied. It's rare. And we've earned it. There were no more questions. No more answers needed. Just a quiet kind of understanding. They worked together side by side in the cafe. Amanda managed the little book corner, turning it into a mini library called Reading with Coffee. Joey handled the kitchen and perfected his banana bread recipe. The locals loved them. Customers came not just for the drinks, but for the feeling of home. One lazy afternoon, Joey stepped out of the back room with a small box in his hands. Amanda, busy organizing new books, looked up. What's that? He walked toward her and opened the box to reveal a simple silver ring. This isn't a proposal for a wedding, he said softly. Not yet. It's an invitation to stay. To build something with me, day by day. Amanda took the ring, slid it onto her finger, and smiled. It's light, as it should be. And what's today's special, Mr. Not Quite Fiancé? Joey laughed. The same as always, new beginnings. The cafe became something of a legend in the region. People whispered. That's where the runaway CEO and the girl from the alley built a new life. But to Amanda and Joey, none of that mattered. They weren't a story, they were real. Quiet mornings, burnt toast, shared smiles. Rainy days with books and mismatched mugs. One evening, they sat by the window, watching the sun dip below the hills. Amanda leaned her head on Joey's shoulder. Do you still feel like you're hiding? No, he whispered. I feel found. She smiled, eyes closed. And I feel home. Outside, a young couple stepped into the cafe for the first time. They glanced at Amanda and Joey behind the counter and whispered. Do you think the stories are true? Amanda smiled as she poured coffee. Some of them. Then she handed over 2 mugs, winked, and said, But the best parts? We're still writing those.